Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Book authors. Yes, we have a lot of them, but we're very select. We like things to have a variety. We just don't want to do biographies or do things just on sex or on medical. We want to do things that are different. And when you read the book, you find that you didn't know a lot of things, and that's what books are for. And so I'm very privileged to have Alexandra CHAURAN, who is the author of a book called Have You Been Hexed? Recognizing and Breaking Curses. So welcome to our show, Alexandra.
Thank you.
And actually, I want to tell everybody she is calling in from Issaquah, Washington. That's the state of Washington, so it's far away. But I certainly did enjoy your book, as my book review showed, because it was a subject that I was pretty uninformed about, and you really covered so much. What made you write this book?
Well, I'm a fortune teller by trade. It's the best job in the world, I can tell you that. Basically, I work at parties and special events, bachelorette parties, weddings, things like that. And I also work one-on-one with clients who like to use fortune telling as more of a kind of funky counseling session. And what I found is that nearly every day I get a client who comes to me who thinks that they're the subject of some kind of curse or a hex. And I found that rather odd because even though I am a spiritual person and I believe that real hexes do exist out there in the world, they're actually incredibly, incredibly rare in our culture. We're not the kind of culture that has effective magical practitioners throwing crazy spells around. So I was very concerned that my clients were being sort of tricked or fooled or confused into thinking that they had this horrible, incurable spiritual affliction. And so I wrote the book so that I could explore hexes and curses in the different cultures, and I could write sort of a layperson's guide to what is black magic and how does it exist and how can you remove those hexes and curses from yourself for free, because there's a lot of people who unfortunately have been taken by scams, and I was just tired of seeing these good people be fooled and tricked out of their money.
Well, thank you. That's very, very good of you, Alexandra. I think you're absolutely correct. And something you said that's funny, when I've had parties, and I'm really going to have a big party, go out, I always try to hire fortune tellers and tarot card readers and people who do those because people line up. They love this.
They do. It's a really awesome thing to do at a party for sure.
And I actually have had a long distance done, let's see, it's, I forget what the name of it is, where they can talk to you and they can tell you, they actually speak in another tone. What is that called when... And I can't remember that name. It's something
channeling.
Yes, channeling. Thank you very much. I've lost that word. Channeling. And that was a most interesting. That's the closest I've come to the kinds of things you're talking about.
Yeah. For those who don't know, channeling is when the psychic medium or the fortune teller will actually sort of draw into themselves a spirit or an entity or even a deity and sort of speak with that voice or with that message to a person as if that entity is right there in the room. So it's a pretty impressive thing, and it's something that's practiced in a lot of cultures today.
Is it? Well, I know I have it, and I still have the tape from it, and it's amazing. It was done 15 years ago. It's amazing how those things are so true.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk about your book, because this is not a black magic book, as I wrote, but it's a sensitive philosophical look at what a hex may mean and why it may not explain your having bad luck. So if someone comes to you, what do you do to help them?
Well, I always take these things incredibly seriously. So even though it's incredibly rare that somebody would have an actual curse or hex based on them, I still, listen to the person, take them seriously. I don't brush them off. I try and find out, I ask some simple questions about why they think they've been hexed or cursed. because sometimes, it may be obvious to me, it's not obvious to them that it's a scam, but works by some other psychic, fraudulent psychic, or sometimes they will have a story that has to do with an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend, or with travels to another country where curses and hexes are more commonplace. So I try and find out a little more about that. And then I typically use my forms of divination that I use for fortune telling to find out whether there is still an existing effective curse or hex on this person. And that's typically where I find out that the person's just fine and it's good news all around. If the person is not just fine, then I can give them information to remove the hex or curse from themselves totally for free. And that's why I wrote the book, is so that people can, bypass the middleman and learn for themselves, so that they don't have to spend money trying to put all the power in someone else's hands. I'm trying to empower others.
That's very good. And I'm sure there are people who, especially I would think people who've lost loved ones that want to connect with their loved ones, and maybe they can, maybe they can't. I have a book that's coming up that may be on that also. But I guess mostly there are a lot of people that I always say seem to walk under a black cloud, and everything they do just seems to go bad on them. Now, is that a hex, or is it they don't manage their life properly?
Typically, it's more frequently problems with that person's life choices and that person's powerful thoughts. The effects that they witness in their lives, everything going wrong, is really tangibly real. And so it's sometimes kind of a tough message to give them, a tough pill to swallow, that, you're causing these problems in your life. But I try to give it in an empowering way, because those people who are causing their own bad luck are typically incredibly powerful people. Their thoughts are such powerful things that they're influencing their lives negatively. So they have to sort of reprogram their basic everyday thoughts to become more positive, more empowering, and to get rid of the negativity that's been plaguing them for their entire lives.
Well, the interesting thing about what you've just said is that it seems that it multiplies, that if they have one problem, it grows on another problem. And I only hope they would find someone like you and not, as you said, find someone who might take advantage of them. And that's why I think your book is so important, because you really run the whole gamut in your book. You go from things that are, that might be a hex to things that aren't a hex. And your final section's titled Conclusion. And that shows you, at least it showed me, that how sensitive and kind a person you are.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really hoping my book will be available in every library, because I don't want anybody to have to feel that their only recourse is to go to a fraudulent psychic or some shady person who claims, if you pay me $500, I'll get rid of this nasty bad luck that's been plaguing you for a lifetime. Because I think anybody would take that gamble if they're desperate enough. And I think our culture makes people desperate, because we tend to make fun of people who believe in these things. And that's hard, if their friends and relatives are saying, you're crazy, you're stupid, and they're really experiencing bad stuff, well, then they might feel they have nowhere to turn. And so I really wanted to give a resource out there available to everyone.
Yeah, that's good of you. I agree. And I think it is a great resource. When you first started writing this, did you think was it going to be a novel, or was it always going to be a resource?
I was gonna try and make it. I worked really hard, and I have a wonderful publisher, Llewellyn Publications. They really helped me make this book into the reference book it really is. It should be on everyone's shelf. I think that even a magical practitioner, a psychic, should have this on their shelf to loan out to clients that are concerned, because I tried to make it for the layperson. So even if you don't know the first thing about magic, or if you're really kind of dubious and say, I'm not sure if it's real, I wanted to make this book really basic and simple, so that anybody could pick it up and use it to do basic things like hex breaking and curse breaking, even on some pretty complex magical workings. So I tried to make it a layperson's guide, really straightforward, really simple, so that it would be sort of a resource book to have on the shelf.
Yeah, well, tell me something. I haven't asked this to anybody else, but I don't know how many years. It's just a short time ago that we're seeing more shows on zombies and out of body, you know, programs or out of body occurrences. What do you think's happening?
Yeah, it seems like a pendulum swing to me, in the 90s with the craft coming out and stuff like that. We keep having these sort of resurgence of interest in dark stuff and the paranormal. And I think that that's just, bad phases that go through with young people in particular. And that sometimes makes it complicated in our culture as well, because if people think, oh, witchcraft is just something that silly teenagers get into, then it can make people feel bad if they're interested in witchcraft as an adult, or if they're worried about witchcraft as an adult, because there is a confusion, I think, with television and movies and with real life. I mean, real life magic is definitely different. Not quite as amazing, but amazing nonetheless. And so it's definitely important for people to know that it's different from what you see on TV.
Yeah, that's really true. And so when people when someone passes away and they keep seeing that person and they come to you, what do you tell them?
Well, typically there's a lot of people who do come to me for seances and things like that. I also actually wrote a book about Ouija boards that has a lot about this, and it's called Spirit Boards for Beginners. And this book has a lot of amazing true stories in it about people who have come to Ouija boards and spirit boards for answers like that. And so I might use a spirit board or a crystal ball or another divination technique to sort of help that person talk with spirits on the other side, because I do believe that that's something that people can do, and it's certainly something that was practiced a lot in other cultures. And I think that we're detached from death in our Western culture today, and it's kind of sad. I think that relationships can and perhaps should continue beyond the grave, and so I love to help people get started with that, and not only can I help them talk with their deceased loved ones, but I hope to help people so that they can do it themselves as well.
I'm sure that is what they want you to do when they come to you, because, and then we all saw, I don't know, was it 30 years ago, The Exorcist? What about that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, exorcism?
Yeah, did you see The Exorcist?
I actually have in my Have You Been Hexed book, I have some instructions about exorcisms, because that's kind of another extreme version of hexing or cursing, is when an exorcism has to be performed when a person has an entity or spirit inside them that might be causing some mischief or some bad things, and that entity or spirit needs to be pulled out of the person in a process that we call an exorcism. And so certainly in my book, I keep it simple, I keep it effective, so there's not a whole lot of the power of Christ compels you kind of theatrics going on. But yeah, I think that exorcisms really do happen, and certainly spirit possession is not quite as dramatic as you see in the movie, but it is something that can affect people's lives. It is.
So let me tell everyone, you're listening to Alexandra CHAURAN, who's the author of a book which we featured as Book of the Month in Boomer Times, called Have You Been Hexed? Recognizing and Breaking Curses. And she's calling in from Washington State in Issaquah. And it's wonderful talking to you, Alexandra, because so many times you read a book like this and you wonder what the person looks like, and you are very beautiful, and I see we all see your picture, and I was curious, when did you first know that you had this extra sense of, to be a fortune teller, to be able to really see things? I mean, can you see me over the phone now and what's going on?
Hey, I read cards, not mine. But my mother actually is a fortune teller as well, and I was lucky enough to be raised with a family that put up with my strangeness and actually encouraged it and treated it as normal. So I don't have a real moment of remembering the first time. I do remember when I was very young, having an out-of-body experience and being completely terrified. I must have been about 4 years old. And when I came back into my body, my mother told me, oh, it's okay. It's just an out-of-body experience, and just treated it like it was a normal thing and comforted me when I was crying because I was scared. And so she was definitely instrumental in helping nurture any kind of thing I ever wanted to do in my life, including being a fortune teller. So I was definitely very lucky. I didn't have a lot of the barriers that some people have growing up, where their talents or interests are treated as strange and unusual.
Right. Well, that's wonderful. And is your mother still around?
Yes, she is, and she's a very happy lady, still does amazing tarot readings, and she's living in Canada and getting married next year.
Oh, how lovely. Wow. You see, she told your fortune well, didn't she?
Yes, there you go. She makes her own destiny.
Yes, she does. Now, something you also talked about, which I thought you love meditation, and talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, meditation is, a practice whereby you sit quietly and you can try to clear your mind. Psychics use this a lot because you have to have a blank slate chalkboard before you receive messages that are spiritual. And so meditation is a basic skill that I think everybody should have. It lowers blood pressure, it reduces stress, but unfortunately it's a tough practice. I know, because I kind of have attention problems myself, and so I know that it can be tough to sit there and try to clear your mind when you're worrying about what to cook for dinner or money problems and hearing the phone ring and stuff like that. So I do write a lot about meditation in all of my books because I do feel that it's a wonderful skill that everybody should have.
Yeah, that's true. And I have certain things that I had gotten a long time ago, and I try to do it in the morning and for 20 minutes and listen to a tape that's like that. I also took something called the Silva Mind Control course many, many years ago. It has always helped me. So that's why when I read your book, I was impressed that you really ran the entire gamut of all the things that could, people would think about. So your title, of course, Have You Been Hexed, is a lot more than just that. I mean, that was good because I think it caught people's attention, right? When I first saw the book, I said, I don't think I've been hexed, but I'd like to know more about that. One thing that
I get a lot of skeptics who read that book who actually come away from it being happy with the contents, because I do delve into a lot of different things that are related to bad luck, hexes, and just the sort of psychology that surrounds it all, because there's definitely a lot of emotional components at play and cultural components at play and just habits of mind that anyone can work with, even if they're completely skeptical about magic and all that other stuff.
So tell me, someone comes into you. Do you have actually a center where people come to or do you go to other places? I mean, do they come to your office? Or
both, yeah. I do have an office, and it's in Renton, Washington, and I have clients who come into there. But like I said, I also do special events.
Right. But let's say someone comes in. You've never met them before. And can you see that something very bad is going to happen in their life, and how do you tell that person that?
Well, like I said, it's pretty rare when it's something horribly awful. I mean, thank goodness. I mean, we watch the news, and so we feel like things that are awful are incredibly frequent, but they're actually pretty rare. Most people who come in are having just normal everyday lives with normal everyday problems and normal everyday blessings. But, occasionally there will be a potential for something really awful. And then I have to really assess the situation, and I ask the person, what kind of reading they want, how ready they are. Because a lot of people will tell me straight up, I want a very positive reading. I don't want anything scary. And so I honor that, because that's the wishes of the person. And if the person asks me for everything and they want all the gory details, then I'm certainly honest about that. But I do try to phrase it in a positive way, because we are in control of our own destinies. We can make choices that change the future. The future's written in sand, not stone. So I try to phrase it as, this is some things that could happen, and here are some things that you could do to try to circumvent the problem.
I see. So you actually give them, solutions that maybe if they work on it. But people, this is terrible, but have you ever seen anyone who comes in and you know that they're going to die and they don't know it?
Well, again, totally rare, but actually it's more common that when something horrible is going to happen, the person is already really aware. And when I tell them, it's just kind of a confirmation, So that's something I see a lot more often is when, I start asking, are you sure you want to hear the bad and the good? And are you ready for this? And the person's like, oh, yeah, I know what to see, because the person's already well aware about what's going into their lives and where their path is headed. So really, my point, my role is just to offer another perspective using these spiritual techniques to a problem they already know, and then, to offer my advice. And then it's up to them whether or not to take the advice. And that's the real heartbreaking part for me, is if the person just doesn't take good advice and continues on the path.
Yeah, I'm sure it is hard. So, so when people are trying to find answers, in other words, I guess from what you tell them, they are looking for answers. But I have been to some psychics at some time to time, and I'm always amazed that they know, that I was divorced, or that I was having problems, or that I'm going to meet the right man, and shortly right after that I do. I mean, how do they know? How do you know that?
Well, yeah, a lot of people think that I'm somehow, sucking information from them. In fact, a lot of people are worried about long-distance readings, because I do those as well. And people say, well, how can you read over email, right? If you're not in front of the person, how do you suck that information out of them? And that's not what's happening, right? I'm just kind of reading information that's laid out in front of me, just like astrologers read the stars that are above us all. And, the patterns work themselves out here on Earth in the same manner. And so what I'm reading is energies that we all share. So, you breathe out air that I'll eventually breathe in, and it's kind of all mixed together in this crazy world. So divination is just telling a story based on the patterns that I can see. And I think those patterns are revealed to everyone, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching this kind of art.
Yeah, I have to just commend you. It's I don't think I've ever talked to anyone about this before on the radio. I've done this for 20 years, and so this is very, very different because it is not really in our realm, and it's kind of like, whoa, you heard that, where people are,
yes.
And I pass many psychic places as I'm driving. I will tell you this, I have a friend, and her name is Mother Ratasha, and she's really worldwide now. She's like Mother Teresa, but if you look up on the web, it's the religion of love that she has really founded for probably almost 30 years. And she wears a white garb, and she was walking home. She passed a psychic's home, and the psychic runs out and says, Mother Ratasha, no, she didn't know her name. She says, please, I have to tell you something. There is danger for you. And it so happened that there were some people in Bangladesh which she's been having a problem with. And so she thanked the woman and said, yes, I do know, and thank you very much. So that was interesting, wasn't it? And Mother Ratasha was very, very appreciative of it, but very surprised.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Definitely psychic stuff is out of the ordinary. That's why I was really happy to be able to be a part of the Boomer Times and be on the cover there, is because I know there's a lot of people who are, vaguely know about psychics from TV and stuff like that, but they might not be really believing in them until something comes up in their lives that's really horrible, and so they start feeling a little desperate and start searching around for a psychic. And, I want information to be available so people can make smart, savvy consumer choices.
How long do you usually spend with someone who comes in?
It depends. Usually when I do a one-on-one in-person appointment at my office. It's usually about an hour long.
Is that
and
right?
the person comes in and everything gets all their questions answered within the hour. But I do quicker readings all the time, long distance ones that are shorter. And of course, when I'm doing an event with lots and lots of people lining up,
yeah, right.
I have to be really quick about it so that everybody gets a turn.
Well, I want to just tell everyone who you are again, and then I want to ask you about reading palms. So just be thinking about that. I'm going to come back here. Alexandra CHAURAN, she is the author of Have You Been Hexed? Recognizing and Breaking Curses. You want to get her book. It's called, you can get it at website, which is earthshod, EARTHSHOD.com. And I'm sure it's on Amazon.com also. But you can get it on, there's another place, it's a LLEWELLYN, I guess Llewellyn.com, is that right?
That's right, that's the publisher.
Okay, LLEWELLYN, Llewellyn.com. And we're just having a really good talk. They are the book of the month for Boomer Times, right on the cover, and then we have a great interview, and then you can see how pretty she is in the bottom of the review. She's actually done a lot of radio and a lot of interviews, so she's an old hand at this. But the nice thing is it's a subject that most people don't understand. And as Alexandra said, she was happy to write something like this to maybe if she can just help a few people, she'll be very happy. Let's talk about reading palms. Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually wrote a book about reading palms.
No.
Called Palmistry Every Day. Yep. Called Palmistry Every Day. And so I know a little bit about palm reading.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we didn't know that when we asked you, about this. So it's a real book, huh?
Yes, there's a whole book, Palmistry Every Day.
Well, we may have to talk to you about that one another time, but thank you.
Yeah.
Alexandra, this has just been great. And, of course, we're going to have a big Boomer Expo, and your book will be on display at our book review table, and hopefully people will see it there also. So we thank you so much and appreciate just keep making people feel better. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Bye.
All right, bye now.